And and I am pleased to introduce Kelly Rodabat from EPA Region 5, Quality Assurance Manager, and she's going to walk us through quality assurance questions, why it's important. Please ask your questions in the chat. We will get to them as soon as we can, and I will give it to Kelly to take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jumana. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making time today, right before the holidays, to talk about quality assurance, the gift that keeps on giving. Again, I am Kelly Rodabat, and I am the Region 5 EPA Regional Quality Assurance Manager. And so that means that I work on quality assurance project, like quality assurance as it relates to all the programs that we do through the EPA here in Region 5. So before we get started, I'd like to make sure that everyone is comfortable using the chat feature, which if your screen is like my screen, it's up here at the top, and you can click on it and you can put in a message. So I'm going to put in hi to everybody. And just as an icebreaker, if you'd like to talk about what your morning beverage is or what you have at your desk right now, I have coffee, and I also have Alka-Seltzer cold and flu dissolving tablets that I might be imbibing. Lakeisha has a Red Bull. I love Red Bull, and I only allow myself to have it on road trips because I like it too much. And so that's how I make sure that I only have it once in a while, but I love a Red Bull. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And then me and Jumana talked earlier. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or come off mic and ask a question. I don't mind stopping the presentation to talk about something. I know that sometimes if you have a question, you might need it to be addressed so that you can continue to take the information in. So I'm happy to stop at any time and talk more about where we're at in our presentation. So this presentation today is about why we do QA, what quality assurance is, and why we're going to be doing it for these projects that we're working on. So that's not going to advance the slide. Let's see where. Okay. Why is QA required? So this is how a lot of people feel about quality assurance. They don't know her. They have not interacted with her. They have no interest, and they don't want to. So before we talk about the specifics, I'd like to do a quick thought experiment with everyone. If you've seen a presentation that I've done before, this is a thought experiment that I like to do before we get into sort of the more of the nitty gritty. So the most frequently asked question of quality assurance professionals is, why do we have to do quality assurance? So this is a fish. This is a fish. This is not a fish, but people call it a fish. This is a fish. This is fish. So when someone says fish, they could mean one of a myriad of types of fish, or not fish even, and you're not going to know what they're communicating to you until you ask more questions or get more information from them. So communication is a challenge for us as people, and we want to make sure that we start these projects on the same page with each other. So if Ms. Angela Bassett says to Matt Damon, fish, she is thinking of a taillight shiner, a beautiful fish found in North Texas and also up into Missouri. But Matt Damon might be thinking of fish. So they're not on the same page yet. They're not yet communicating effectively. If Ms. Angela Bassett says shiner, okay, we're getting closer. She's still thinking about a taillight shiner. Matt Damon's probably thinking about the Texas shiner, endemic to the state of Texas. He's thinking about the Alamo. He's thinking about just how much he loves Texas. They're still not on the same page yet. When Ms. Angela Bassett says Natropis maculatus, now they are on the same page. They can move forward knowing that both of them are understanding what they're talking about. because this very specific language, the scientific name, has been used. And so at this point, they are able to move forward knowing that they are working on the same project, that they are thinking the same thing. So sometimes I like to think about these projects as if we're playing a game of Go Fish, and you want to make sure that you're communicating effectively so that you can get the cards that you need. If you ask for the wrong thing, you're not going to win the game. If you're not communicating effectively with your program partners, your project partners, it's going to be hard. So at the end of the day, quality assurance is about communicating effectively with each other to achieve project objectives. So why do we need QA? The EPA Environmental Information Quality Policy, CIO 2105.3, I never really say that. It defines the minimum requirements for the quality program supporting EPA environmental programs. So when we're talking about environmental programs, that encompasses the collection, production, evaluation, and or use of environmental information by or for EPA, as well as the design, construction, operation, or application of environmental technology by EPA. So collectively, these activities are referred to as environmental information operations, or EIO. We're going to talk more about environmental information later. And I also want to assure you that you're going to get a copy of these slides. So don't worry about trying to write everything down. And this presentation is being recorded. So this information is going to be available for you to review later. Why do we need QA? Because it's required. But that's not a satisfying reason. And no one ever really got buy-in from somebody by saying, because we told you so. So I like to think about it as better living through quality assurance. So quality assurance allows us to communicate what our environmental information or environmental data quality expectations are. What is the quality of the data that we need to collect in order to answer the question that we have? Quality assurance also allows you to organize your project planning in terms of project success. When you know what you plan to do and you set it out ahead of time, and then you follow that plan, you are going to be confident that you are in the process of achieving your goal and that you will eventually achieve your goal. Quality assurance also establishes guardrails to keep us focused and on track. So no project can be everything to everyone, and scope creep is unfortunately a reality in the kind of projects that we work on. So as you're getting this environmental information, or you're talking to your communities, and you get all these great ideas for the stuff that you want to do. You cannot you can't infinitely expand your project to include everything that you want to do, right? So you need to define, this is what we're going to do for this project. And when things come up that are interesting, we're going to note them for the next project. But QA allows you to keep on track so that when these exciting side quests come up, you can keep focused knowing that you can circle back to that at a later date with another project. So pick your metaphor, whether it's a roadmap, a recipe, an orchestral composition. What quality assurance does is it allows us to organize our project planning around what our project goals are, what our desired outcome is, what do we want to know, what question do we want to answer. And in environmental work, a lot of the times, the desired outcome is to collect, aggregate, design, implement environmental information of the type and quality needed and expected for the particular decision or use specified. So when we talk about the quality program here at EPA, the primary goal of our quality program is to ensure that our environmental information are of sufficient quantity and quality to support the data's intended use. So breaking that down a little bit, that means that we've collected enough data to answer our question. Is 3 samples going to be enough to answer our question? Probably not. Is 100 samples going to be enough to answer our question? Maybe. Is 100 samples prohibitively expensive and we could get the same distribution of sampling effort with fewer samples so that we can still answer our question? Maybe we can do 60. So, but there is a lower level at which you're not collecting enough data to be useful. You're not going to be able to make well-informed decisions based on talking to 5 people in your community. You need whatever your situation is. So sufficient quantity, and then also quality. What type of quality of data do you need? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. And so our quality program, our quality program relates to those of us that work in the EPA and the people that we partner with. So this also applies to contractors, grantees, and other recipients of financial assistance from EPA, which is why I'm talking to y'all today. At the EPA, we use the graded approach. So rather than applying a one-size-fits-all approach to quality documentation, we want to design bespoke quality documentation that fits the project objectives and intent. By using the graded approach, we can avoid overcomplicating a simple project or underperforming on a complicated project. And the graded approach does not include eliminating any required quality assurance project plan elements. I'm going to talk about quality assurance project plans in a little bit. So it's not about leaving out things that are required, but it is about tailoring your quality documentation to meet the rigor of your project. So I would like to think about this in terms of, is our project that we want to install an air quality monitoring station at a playground, because we want to understand air quality where our kids are playing. And we're gonna operate it ourselves, and it's gonna take measurements every 15 minutes when we expect kids to be there. So maybe in the morning, in the middle of the day, whatever. I don't know. Sorry, I should have thought about this beforehand. So we're gonna take our measurements. This is one type of project. Another type of air quality project could be air quality monitoring that's established at a manufacturing site where they do, there are discharges and we're monitoring for health and safety. Those are two totally different projects. Even though they're both thinking about air quality, and even though air quality is important no matter whether it's at a playground or at this manufacturing facility, the difference is at the manufacturing facility, they're using this information for regulatory decisions, for health and safety decisions to be acted upon immediately, versus at our playground project, we are adding to the body of knowledge about what's going on in our community, but we're not expecting that data to, we're not going to call 911 based on what that data. Like, we're collecting information to be used in the future to report to our community leaders or whatever. It's not the same as like regulatory data collection, if that makes sense. So those two projects are totally different. And the graded approach means that we are not going to expect the same type of analytical rigor from our playground project that we are from our manufacturing facility project. And I want to emphasize that that doesn't mean that both of these projects aren't important. They both are important. It's just that I want to assure y'all that we're not, at EPA, we're not expecting y'all to provide quality assurance documents that are like the same as like what we're going to get from a contractor that was hired to do Superfund work. So let me do a quick time check. I put my phone away so I would be totally focused. So what time is it right now? Jumana?
Sorry about that. It's 11:14.
Okay, thank you. Quality assurance project plans. So there's different ways that people pronounce this, and I've noticed this at meetings. I'm from Texas. We always said QAPP. That's just what we said. Some people say QAPs, some people say QAPs, some people say QA project plan. I usually say QAPP. It does take longer. However you call it, however you say it, quality assurance project plan defines the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your project. So it's asking, what is the purpose of our project? What question are we trying to answer? Why is this project important to us? Where are we conducting our project? What is the geographical location of our project? And also within like the broader context, where is it? Are we only interested in intersections in this like 2-mile radius, or are we interested in any parks? Like, I don't know. How the information or data will be collected, how that information or data will be analyzed, how we're defining whether that information or data is of sufficient quality, i.e. is good enough to answer the question that we're asking. We're also going to describe who is responsible for each task, who is responsible for what aspects of the project, and when we are going to do what task. This does not have to be down to the minute. Like, if you're familiar with Gantt charts, it's this way of scheduling your time so that you can see like what tasks overlap other tasks. It's a project management tool. It's really useful. Not expecting that. This could be bare bones, like, here's the 7 things we're going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You don't have to say like, we will do this on January 3rd, 2025. Not that specific. But we do want you to say generally when, like how the progression of your project, and also who is responsible for each task. It's really important to get that down ahead of time so that you are not in the middle of doing something and no one realized, everyone thought it was someone else's job to do that. We've all been in that kind of situation. So quality project planning allows you to define ahead of time who is responsible for what, so everyone knows what they're supposed to do. So when we're talking about project scope and quality documentation, the too long didn't read of this whole thing is if a project involves environmental information operations, or EIO, a quality assurance project plan is going to be required. And we are going to talk more about quality assurance project plans, and we are going to talk more about what environmental information is. I just want to say at this point in the presentation that if projects that include environmental information operations are valuable. Projects that don't include environmental information or environmental information operations are also valuable. What I don't want to have happen is that any of our partners or any of our future grantees are like going towards a project saying, well, we don't want to have to write a QAPP, so we're going to have to alter what we want to do so that we don't have to write a QAPP. If your project that is important to you, that you want to do, involves environmental information operations, we are going to help you get that quality assurance project plan written so that you can do the project that you want to do. So I just want to be really clear about that. When we talk about environmental information operation, when we talk about environmental information, we're talking about data and information that describe environmental processes or conditions supporting our mission of protecting human health and the environment. So environmental information could be direct measurements of environmental parameters or processes where you're going out and collecting some type of sample in the environment. That's one type of environmental information. Environmental information is also the testing of those samples. It's data or information on physical parameters or processes that is collected using environmental technologies. Calculations or analyses of environmental data or information are themselves like a little nesting doll. Data or information that is provided by models is also environmental information. Data or information that you obtain from other sources. So as an aquatic biologist, when I worked in Texas, we used the USGS water data. If there was a gauge at a bridge, it's so much easier to use that gauge data than to have to go out and measure it yourself. So we used that data, but we had already justified and investigated that we knew the data that was collected by USGS met our quality requirements for the work that we were doing. Environmental information is the development of environmental software, tools, models, methods, and applications, as well as the design, construction, and operation or application of environmental technology. I know that if I was seeing this list for the first time, I would be grossed out. I would be like, this is too much information. Again, I want to help y'all do the projects that y'all want to do. So let's talk about the projects that you want to do. It's not quite like I know environmental information when I see it. It's not that close. It's just that I look at these projects all day, every day, and so faster for, like, I'm just more versed in it. So let's talk about the kind of stuff that you want to do, and we'll talk about whether it's considered environmental information or not. Environmental technology for EJ projects. I just want to, some of the proposals that we've already been seeing from other programs that are getting this funding. Environmental technology could include green infrastructure. It could include environmental restoration projects. It could include projects that support underserved communities by providing things like water and air quality monitoring, specifically. Education and outreach, I don't consider environmental information. We'll talk about that in a second. Other kinds of things like aquatic connectivity or other types of projects like that. So these are examples of what could be environmental technology. This is not an exhaustive summary. So again, let's talk about your specific project and let's talk about how the graded approach is going to apply to your project. When is a quality assurance project plan required? As we said before, any work performed on or behalf of EPA involving the collection, production, evaluation, or use of environmental information or technology, that's going to trigger the requirement for a quality assurance project plan. And when we talk about on or behalf of EPA, that's because this funding is coming from EPA. So this funding is an extension of the work that we do. And that's why these requirements are in place, because we are partners. Are you unsure if your project involves environmental information and or environmental technology? We in the EPA Quality Assurance Group can help you figure that out. When is a quality assurance project plan not required? So it's not required when your project doesn't involve environmental information operations. So projects that may not, and I want to like highlight may not need a QAPP, include projects related to public outreach, environmental education, trash removal, property acquisition. And this is because if you are conducting public outreach, you're talking to people about environmental issues in your community, but you're not collecting or you're not using information, whether you've collected it or someone else has collected it, to make a decision. You're not using environmental information to then ask for something different. You're instead communicating, talking to your community about what's going on in your community and how they can understand these things and how they can get involved. When we talk about, so if your project is that you are using publicly available data about water quality in, like in Houston, we have bayous. Let's say your community wanted to know, like, what's the water quality of the bayou that's running through our neighborhood? And you are not collecting samples yourself, but you are using data from whatever city agency collects that water, and you're gonna use that data to create a report to talk to your community about it. That is environmental information operations, because you're using data that someone else has collected. You need to say, how good does the data need to be in order for us to use it in our report? And then you're coming up with a report, you're evaluating that data, and you're talking to, like, you're making that available to other people. So this is where I'm trying to give you an example of what doesn't feel like environmental information because you didn't collect the data is still environmental information, because you do need to, before you start, you can't decide in the middle of your project how good the data needs to be. You decide that beforehand so that you can apply that to the data that you're acquiring. We did it. Okay, so summary. So all of us, what our goal is, if we are collecting environmental information, we have been tasked with developing a quality system that's going to allow us to collect environmental information of the type and quality needed and expected for the particular decision or use specified. And that particular decision or use specified is the graded approach part of it. So that's the difference between we just want to know what's going on versus we need to have data that is of sufficient quality that we can notify everyone immediately if there's a health risk, like immediately. Our quality system allows us to describe how our actions in the field will be conducted, how our actions in the lab will be conducted, and what we do at our desks to ensure that we have defined the type and quality of data that we need. And we're also going to discuss how we collected it or aggregated it, how we're analyzing it, and how we're going to determine whether it meets our quality requirements. So when you need to know, how am I going to know if my project requires a quality assurance project plan? We are here to help you. So please reach out. You can reach out through Jumana and she can get to me. I think my contact information is also included at the end of this presentation, and that will be provided to you. Anytime that we talk, I'm going to make sure that your grant maker people are involved. Like it probably won't just be you and me, like we're going to have the whole project involved, but I am here to help if you have questions. And just again, don't be scared of quality assurance project plans. My goal is for you guys to do the project that you want to do. So I've included some references and links to our quality assurance document, like our guidance and our requirements. I think these are external links, but if they're not, let me know and I'll make sure that those are provided. And more, so many more links. I especially want to point you to these other quality assurance presentations. Again, let me know if these links don't work for you and I'll try to figure out another way to get them to you. But if quality assurance is something that you want to know more about, I think these are some good references to get you started thinking about it. And with that, I want to thank you for your time. And if anyone has any questions, I would love to talk about them.
Thank you, Kelly. I love your presentation. I've heard many quality assurance presentations, and I have to say yours is the most fun, most interesting, and we're lucky to have you in our region.
No, thank
So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat at this moment, but maybe we will invite people to jump in, unmute if they have a question that they'd prefer to speak instead of right into the chat.
Yeah. My understanding is that we are a group right now of potential grantees, but that grants have not been. Has the NOFO even gone out yet? Is that what we're calling it?
It did.
Okay.
We announced our launch 2 weeks ago today, and we got a lot of interest and excitement. Maybe it might help for us to walk through for folks what it looks like. So I've been trying to put in the chat and really underscore what you said, which is that this happens after the grant is selected and granted. So what will happen is that approved grants, once they're finalized with the finalized work plan and budget, they get sent to your team through us, Kelly.
Yeah.
And then you will review every approved grant that we make. And only those that need quality assurance project plans will be identified. And then we will have a conversation directly between the EPA and the grantee, supported by our partnership that helps them develop the grant, the project plan, the quality assurance project plan. And then we will have support and resources to help with the implementation of that plan as well. So we
Yes.
don't want anyone to feel scared. And we
No.
do want you to use this as a great opportunity to develop your first quality assurance project plan. If this is something that's new to you, it's a great time to start.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be interesting to even know how many people have ever seen a quality assurance project plan. But all of you are here today because you want to like do this type of work with your communities. And so you already are really organized people who are probably a part of your process is, I'm going to plan ahead of time the things that I need to get done and how I know that they've been accomplished, right? And that is basically what a quality assurance project plan is. So I think that it sounds intimidating because we've abstracted it into this document, but all it is, like I said, is a list of like, who's going to do what when are we going to do it? Where are we going to do it? And how will we know that it was good enough that we accomplished our goal? The other thing to know is that the majority of projects, you accomplish your goal, but you always have like, and then this is the next thing that I want to do. So if you're concerned, like, I don't want it to be too limited, or I have all these big ideas. All of our projects are like that. I mean, when we talk about Superfund projects, these are projects that go on for years and years because there are different phases and you have to sort of discreetly package what you're going to get done because you can't do everything right away. Or there are things that need to happen first so that you can get to the next stage. So I think that part of this that is so intimidating is like, I don't even know where to start. And my advice would be to get some beverages that you like and get very comfortable, and then dedicate 2 hours to throwing every single thing into a Word document. Don't try to organize it. Don't like limit yourself, like almost like a free association of like everything that I'm thinking about. Because to me, the hardest part of as a perfectionist, the hardest part is starting. So once you get get the first ideas out on the page, then you already your brain will go towards, okay, here's where it's stratifying. Here's the beginning, the middle, and end. Like you'll start to see those places and then you'll be able to add on to them. So that would be my recommendation. And if you're lucky enough to have people that you work with, if everyone does this, then you just have nothing is just in this business, right? Like it's effort, but like you get everyone to do that and then you come together and you put your ideas together, and some stuff will get thrown out. Some stuff will be like, we can do that next time. But the first step is the hardest. Is that the song? The first cut is the deepest is the song actually. But that's the hardest part, is just getting started. So once you get ideas on the paper, I think you'll find it's much easier after that. And it's really just the anticipation that is the most stressful.
Kelly, thank you. And you're talking about at the project development stage here, thinking
Mhm.
through all the steps that you're going to need to related to environmental data.
Mhm.
And then what piece of it they would apply for this project, right? That's what you're
Yeah,
laying out.
I think so.
I've
Yeah.
got a couple of questions related to that, and
Okay.
one is sort of a general question. Well, let me start with the case study first, but I will just name the two questions here. So one was, can you walk us through what some quality assurance project plan projects that would require a QAP might look like? And we can talk about that because tier 1 is about assessment and understanding the issues. So maybe you could walk us through that. And then the second question is, how long does it take to get reviewed and then to develop a quality assurance project plan?
Okay. Do you want to help me understand the tiers a little bit better? So like when we talk about assessment, is that going out to the community and talking to them, or is that a data review? Like
It could
what
be
is
anything. It could be
okay.
anything so this is what the EPA has given us. Tier 1 is about assessment and helping understand the issues that the community would like to address. And so that could be whatever the community needs. It could be data collection, it could be data analysis, it could be just sharing information and giving people an understanding of what's going on based on data that's already collected.
Okay. So anytime that you are getting information about environmental conditions from another source, whether it is your city, if it is a non-governmental organization like Sierra Club, or if it is a governmental or quasi-governmental organization like NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency. Anytime you're getting information from an external source that is related to environmental information, that will require some type of quality assurance project plan to define how good does that data need to be in order for you to use it for the purpose that you want to use it for? And I would look at that like you're doing a research paper. So do we consider Wikipedia to be a good enough resource to use for our research project? Maybe, probably not. But when I was talking earlier about USGS water gauge data, the agency that I work for in Texas had a relationship with USGS. We understood how they collected that data, how their instrumentation was calibrated, how they verified and validated that data. We understood that it was provisional for 180 days. And so we needed to have a schedule of going back and making sure that what they had reported on June 1st was still true on December 1st, because that was their blah, blah, blah. So like we understood that data, how it was collected, how it was verified, how USGS was affirming that it was accurate and precise so that we could use it for the purposes that we needed to use it. So in the same way, if you're using someone else's data, you need to be able to say, I know this is good enough because I've looked at these different factors. If you are going out to your community and asking them what is important to them, you may or may not need a quality assurance project plan. And when I would think that you would need it, and we can talk about this more because it all ends up being the graded approach, is if you are collecting personally identifiable information from people, you're going to need to describe how you're going to keep that information safe. So you can't get information. If you go out to your community and you say, what's your name? What are you worried about? And they say, oh, we're worried about this plant in our place. And then that document has their name associated with them saying that they have a problem with someone else in the community. That's personally identifiable information that you want to be able to protect for them, right? If you ask them about their health issues, that's personally identifiable information. You're going to have a plan for how your organization is going to keep that documentation, how you're going to protect that documentation. So that could be
And Kelly, that's a pretty straightforward plan, right? Like that's if some of these pieces are just laying out how you're going to do it. It's not a very cumbersome or complicated process for some of these things. So just to say what you said again, is that a quality assurance project plan doesn't need to be scary, but it does help protect you and your community from knowing that you're doing everything the right way.
Right. And the other thing is, like, I think what I'm expecting to happen is that when we see the work plans that get approved, it'll say, we're going to go out and survey people about blah, blah, blah. Then my question is going to be, oh, what does that survey look like? Like, do you have it written out? Like, let's talk about it. And if there is a QAPP that needs to be written, if we do need to safeguard that kind of information, we'll talk about the ways to do it that are going to work for your organization. So it's not like, now here is a caveat. I do want to say, EPA cannot tell you what to do. We can only tell you what is required. So we can give you options. We can help direct you towards people that have information, people that can help advise you. But what I cannot do, I cannot write it for you, because then now I'm involved in the process. Like, now I've said, as an EPA employee, I've said, this is part of this project, and now I can no longer independently assess it. So what's going to happen in these discussions is that we'll talk about what your project is. We'll talk about what looks like environmental information. We'll talk about what is needed, and it will be a discussion. So that's how I see this working, if that helps clear up your question. But I'm going to leave it there.
That was helpful. And I know that there's a request to have more case studies based on each tier, but I think the takeaway is that a lot of this is transferable across tiers. The way you're handling the data and the quality assurance is going to, be similar or depending on, it's not the tiers that's going to be a difference. It's more about the exact project that you're proposing.
Yeah.
I think Kelly's done a great job of sort of laying out why and the questions, but it is sort of a case by case situation. And what I really appreciate about Region 5 is their willingness to talk about the needs in relation to the capacity. And they're not going to give you options that Kelly mentioned that are not going to work for you. And that you also have a team of the rest of us to help you figure out any the questions that you have. Related to time frame, Kelly, you've said that once you get a proposal, I think the EPA is going to try to turn that review around in 2 weeks. Is that still what your understanding is?
Okay, my understanding, so the work plan, when the work plan is submitted to EPA, yes, our goal is to respond within 2 weeks saying, yes, this is going to need a QAPP or some type of quality documentation, or no, we don't expect that it will. If it's a no, go with God or the person of your choice. But if it does, we might drill down, and it might turn out that the way a project was described, it seemed like it was environmental information, but upon further discussion, we can see that it's not, or it does need a QAPP, in which case we're going to say, we're going to help you figure out how to describe that. I did want to bring up some conversations that I've had with environmental justice grantees in the Great Lakes program, that some of them are using EPA approved calculators to determine like stormwater runoff or to determine greenhouse gases. So there are tools that are already available and approved by EPA. And if that's what people are using, we've already been through the quality assessment of that. And therefore we can say, if that's what you're using, we're fine with it, and we don't need additional quality assurance documentation. But as soon as you say, well, we're also going to use other like quote unquote industry standard calculations or this or that, then it's something that we haven't looked at before, and we're going to want to make sure that it's like clearly defined. So yes, the work plan review, 2 weeks. If a quality assurance project plan is required, when that is submitted, that's a 30-day turnaround from us back to you. And because of the timeline of these projects, my recommendation is going to be that when we return it with comments, and I honestly have only ever seen one quality assurance project plan that was perfect the first time. Like it's not super realistic to think that. When we return the comments, we would schedule a meeting with the grantee so that we can discuss the comments so that the second draft will be approvable. That's my goal. What I don't want to have happen is for us to only do things over email and then we get trapped in like, what does she mean by this? She wrote this thing and I don't really understand it. Like, let's have a discussion. I'll explain, or the QA reviewer will explain their comments. I don't think I personally am going to be reviewing all of these, but our team is really small, so I'll probably see a lot of them. So I think that the goal, because of the timeline of these projects, the goal is going to be to have the second draft be approvable. And hopefully we can do that within like 60 days. Like that would be really, really ideal. But that also depends on y'all and your willingness to make the changes that we request. Like it's gonna, yeah, sometimes people push back, but hopefully we won't deal with that too much. So we'll see.
Really, I gave a rough estimate of 4 to 6 weeks to try to, but from the time that you've let us know that there's a quality assurance plan to developing it, and I know that's super rough, but does that seem like a reasonable median estimate?
I think so. It really, because, so I've seen I haven't seen any environmental justice approved work plans from Region 5 I have seen a few from other regions, and I would say the projects that required QAPPs, I think were straightforward enough that if you are working consistently on it, yes, you can get a QAPP submitted within 4 to 6 weeks, understanding that these are, and I do have, I'm not sure if we have a draft for Region 5, but I could get sort of a template from another region. That's something that we need to work on to help structure it. But like, yeah, I do think that's reasonable. I think that part of what the discussion is like, how do we make sure that the grantee is doing the project that they want to do, and that what is included is like achievable. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what these projects look like. I think I'll understand a lot better once I start seeing them. But I would say, like, if you are, like, say your goal is to get kids in your community engaged with like monitoring water bodies, but you also want to report the data that you find to your city, then you need to make sure that your data is good enough that the city is going to be interested in it, and we can help you figure out how to do that.
And I know that folks like Environmental Protection Network are helping develop some templates for.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think that we will hopefully have between some standardized language around ensuring the quality or the safety of the data. I think that between some boilerplate language and templates, we can do our best to make this as efficient as possible. And I do want to say that while you can't draw down any funds or use any funds for environmental data collection until your quality assurance project plan is approved, you can start other parts of the project. So it's not that everything is on hold, just that part of the work can't begin until your project plan is approved and ready to go.
Yes, so that is, thank you. That is an important distinction. If a quality assurance project plan is required for your project, you cannot begin environmental information operations until that quality assurance project plan is approved. So there are things that you can do, but if your project is to, sorry, as an aquatic biologist, like putting water in bottles is like how I always think about collecting samples. So you can't put any water in bottles until your quality assurance project plan is approved. It seems like there were a lot of people in the chat that wanted to talk, so there's a couple of different ways we can do it. Like maybe Jumana can schedule. I think we'll figure out how to have those conversations. Maybe we can start with like 20-minute blocks of time, like kind of like office hours, and go from there, see how that goes. And we did talk about doing more presentations, or more like study groups like this. So if y'all wanted to schedule something where we just came together on a Friday and morning and like just talked for an hour about people's questions, if you're willing to share your questions with the other grantees or potential grantees, that's helpful for everyone, because a lot of people have the same questions, and some people are more confident than others in terms of asking questions. So that's a possibility as well.
I really appreciate your openness and generosity, Kelly. And I wonder if maybe we can do another of these and walk through step by step an example of one or two representative projects, and then we'll record it. So if people can't join, but that might be helpful.
Okay.
For people to see exactly what's required. And we can certainly follow up on getting some one-on-one pieces scheduled. The other thing I want people to really know at this early stage is to budget time and staff resources for potential quality assurance. If you know that you're going to need it, put it into your work plan and budget so that that's part of your project, is to develop the quality assurance project plan, pay yourself and your staff doing that, that's welcome, and we will really encourage you. If you forget to do that and you get a grant that's awarded, and before we finalize it, we'll talk to you and say, hey, there's a good chance you're gonna need a quality assurance project plan. Why don't we adjust your budget before we finalize it so that you build in those resources? We really want to make that project plan a part of this grant, not something you have to do in additional to get the grant. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left. I am not seeing any questions coming through except for ones we have to follow up directly. I have seeing a lot of gratitude to you for you, Kelly, and for this presentation. And so maybe if nothing else comes through, we will sign off and let people go. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for joining.
Thanks for your time today. I appreciate getting a chance to talk to y'all.
All right, great. I'm going to end and we'll talk later. Take care.
Okay, bye.